Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, here with Prawn News, this week's most interesting tech stories, according to me, with a dash of opinion, and hopefully you'll find these interesting, because I sure did. I'm going to start with DeepCool. Now, if you didn't know, back in June, DeepCool was sanctioned in the US. It was caught selling things to Russia and supporting the war against Ukraine, and so the US has essentially banned sale of its products in the United States. And then, just recently, they were caught on Amazon.com selling products under the name Shaking Tank with the DeepCool logo just blurred out. Well, this week the news has come that that wasn't an official move and it was actually a third-party seller that was doing it, and they've been now penalised and won't be doing it in future. That third-party seller was also selling stuff from Coolermaster and other brands. Pretty interesting, I think, and a bit of a shame all round, because DeepCool does do some pretty good products. I've reviewed some in the past and done several videos on their coolers, and other people have rated DeepCool products really highly as well, so it's a bit of a shame to see this happening, but quite an entertaining story. Also, Shaking Tank is a very weird sort of knockoff brand name. In sad news, Anadatech, which I probably pronounced wrong, has shut down after 27 years of online publishing. Now, this is a shame, but it's interesting for me because I used to be a journalist, but also just seeing sort of the downfall of online publications. There's been a lot that have shut down over the last few years and just haven't been doing very well. And it seems that this is down to a few different things, one of which is basically Google stealing people's content, or at least using AI to summarize what's on a page. So if you search for something, you've probably seen it a lot yourself. It's just giving you AI search results at the top, and often those are just summaries of what's on a website, so then you don't even need to go to the website to look at it. When you do go to a website, especially on mobile, those sites are often just covered in adverts. Now, adverts are obviously important to help the journalists survive and make money, and the site owners, and they obviously help me as well in supporting what I do and creating content for you. But they're just unusable in some instances, so it's a real shame there. And there's obviously a lot of competition out there as well. And Anadatech did a lot of in-depth, long-form reviews and detailed content, and obviously we're in an era where people like really highly quick, easy to digest, short-form content, so that might be another factor. There's loads of factors into it, but some of the journalists from Anadatech are now going to work for Tom's Hardware, which is a sister company, so we should at least see them continuing writing there, which is something, but it is a shame to see, and it's just one of several sites that were shut down or aren't going to be making content anymore, so a bit sad. In more positive news, NVIDIA's just recently announced that DLSS now works with 600 games, but what's interesting from this story is that there's now a tool that you can use to update older versions of DLSS in your game files. So if you've bought games that ran DLSS 2, for example, you can now use this tool, point it at the directory, and update the files so that you then have the better, newer version of DLSS on your system, which then means, in theory, you could get higher FPS while maintaining better visuals with less drop in quality. And so it's worth a go, and it's free and easy to do. So if you've got an NVIDIA GPU, then you can do this on older games that you're still playing. Now, this is interesting because game developers will typically have to update their game with an official patch to include the newer version of DLSS. So it takes away that sort of requirement from them and makes it easy for you to do. Or if developers just aren't doing it, you can now do it yourself, which is a really nice thing, I think. So that'll definitely be worth checking out. In rather sad news in the Intel arena, the problems with 13th and 14th gen CPUs continue, and over on Reddit people have been reporting that the i9-13-900K and i9-14-900K are just not being stocked very well. So if people are trying to do an RMA request, then they have to wait weeks for the new CPU, and obviously this isn't ideal. And it probably shows there's been a lot of requests for replacement CPUs because people have been having a lot of issues with them, which again is also not ideal and a real shame to see people having problems. But there is some good news on the Intel front, because Intel's Arrow Lake processors for mobile have just been announced, and desktop should be coming soon. And there has been an announcement from Intel, which was kind of a small part of the update, saying that actually the newer CPUs that are coming won't suffer from the same problems as the 13th and 14th gen CPUs because they're built in a different architecture, which means they can't have the same issues. So long term, you shouldn't see the stability problems. So this is excellent news if you've been holding out hope, waiting for a new Intel CPU, or if you've been worrying about whether the new Intel CPUs are going to have this problem, or if you were thinking about buying AMD and you've seen the lackluster reviews there and just didn't know what to do with yourself. Now, instead of having to buy a 12th gen Intel CPU, you can wait for the new CPUs maybe. And I personally think this is great news. Hopefully, it will mean good news for Intel all round, but we'll see. Before Arrow Lake's even been officially launched in its desktop variants, we're already seeing leaks for the next lineup of CPUs, Panther Lake, coming in 2025. And apparently they're going to have improved graphics processors on board. So you're going to have 12 Xe3 Celestial GPU cores on board, as well as up to 16 CPU cores as well. So potentially pretty powerful CPUs with updated graphics. Also on the mobile front, the Arrow Lake CPUs are apparently claiming to have best gaming performance if you're interested in a mobile laptop. Now, I personally am holding out for the desktop versions of these things, but it's nice to see that Intel's improving that architecture, making that even better. So obviously, theoretically, you can run a PC without a graphics card, or at least get some extra performance out of your CPU in the future as well. So that's going to be a good benefit. That's obviously not until 2025, though, but time flies, doesn't it? So that'll soon be here. Not really sure this counts as news, but Star Wars Outlaws has been some pretty funny bugs coming out of that, and also just entertaining content. One of which is people have found that if you shoot a stormtrooper's speeder in just the right way, you can send the stormtroopers flying, which is pretty entertaining. Now, I personally am enjoying Star Wars Outlaws. I've been playing it a fair bit and enjoying it more than I thought I would, and probably more than other people have based on the reviews I've seen. But it is a bit slow to get going, so I found it a bit dull to start with. And then once you get going into it a bit more and get to bomb about on a speeder and obviously go into space a little bit, it's been a lot more entertaining, and it does look stunning as well. One thing, I do wish that they'd made the main character a bit more interesting, because there's so many different characters in the Star Wars universe. I really wish it could be a Wookiee, for example, as your main character. And from my screenshots and gameplay, I've just seen that there's been some much nicer looking characters in the world that you interact with or just see knocking about on the planets. So it's a shame you don't get to play those. I think that would have been really nice. But otherwise, it's been a pretty good game. However, I should say that I did get it for free with a CPU that I bought. So whether it's worth the full retail price, I'm not at liberty to say. And also haven't played loads of it yet. I probably only played like 10 hours or something. Maybe somewhere around that, but still, I'm enjoying it, so don't believe all the negative hype around that. I've already talked a bit about Google's AI in Google Search, but I just recently saw that you can now swap out Google Assistant for Gemini on your Google phone, and I was pretty interested in doing this because I thought the Google Assistant's been a bit sort of stupid compared to what it should be. I think Google's already dropped the ball in terms of AI and should be moving faster with it. Our Google Home Minis, for example, basically only get used as timers for when we're cooking food because it's just so rubbish in terms of the quality of responses you can get out of them. I really want to see Google Gemini integrated into those devices, and I think Google should have done that by now, but I was pretty keen to test out and see what Gemini would be like on the phone in place of Google Assistant. So when you can do the OK Google command, it will then use Gemini instead of Google Assistant. And I have done it, and it is pretty easy to do. So I'll link to this story and all the other ones in the description so you can see for yourself if you want to try it out. However, I have found it's pretty underwhelming. Also, Gemini is just not giving great results yet. And if you want the advanced version of it, you're looking at like £19 a month, which is just a lot of money for yet another subscription that I don't really want to pay for. But you don't have to pay for it, obviously. You can just use the free version. So if you've got a spare $6,999, then you can get yourself a gaming PC that looks like a shark. Coolermaster's got this bonkers PC, the Shark X, which is pretty cool looking, I'll be honest. I like this because Coolermaster did one previously which looked like a trainer or a sneaker if you're American, and that was also ridiculously expensive, but it's pretty nice to see these sort of crazy designs Obviously, that is a lot of money, though, and I don't think the specs really do it justice. So whether it's worth all that money, but it's still pretty neat to see, and quite an entertaining story from Coolermaster. The other story from Coolermaster is actually about its thermal paste, and I saw this on Twitter the other day. I thought it was pretty fun. So Coolermaster has various different coloured thermal pastes that you can buy, rather than your standard sort of boring grey one. They've got loads of different coloured ones, and they actually use these to then paint on the CPU and make a little bit of artwork, which is pretty nice. I mean, whether that's enough to make you buy the thermal paste or not, I don't know, but it was really entertaining and actually pretty cool art as well. So it's a really nice sort of marketing thing. I thought that was pretty funky and unusual. Beyerdynamic has announced a new open back headset, the MMX 330 Pro. Now, this should be a pretty good headset. Beyerdynamic's gaming headsets have been pretty nice to use. I've done a few reviews on the previous ones, and this is an open back one which will give you a wider soundscape. It is also multi-platform, so that should have a benefit, and has a 10mm microphone on it as well. So it's got a pretty decent setup potentially. Not cheap, but Beyerdynamic products are really good in my experience. I really like their headphones. However, I will note that I've found that because of the round design of the ear cups, they're not as comfortable as some of the other headphones that they do. So I do prefer the DT770s, for example, over the MMX models. But that doesn't mean they're not bad. They are good headsets with good sound and worth considering. So this is potentially a pretty interesting update. One of the things I can't talk about yet, but I'm really excited for, so subscribe to see this, is on Tuesday, very soon, just a few days, Glorious is releasing an update, and you can see a timer on their website at the moment, but they're coming with something pretty exciting, and my review sample for this has just turned up, but I can't say anything about it just yet. But let me tell you, I'm very excited for it, and it's pretty awesome. So stick around for more on that. Hopefully you enjoyed this edition of Prawn News. Thanks very much for watching, and have a great life.